Welcome to US Government Advanced Placement Review for Unit 2 and Unit 3. We're going to start with our broad terms talking about political culture. Political culture is the big concept. Political ideology is the personal, individual concept. So we're talking about political culture. This is kind of what Americans believe about government. Those things that we hold dear: popular sovereignty, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all of our individual rights, the whole kind of concept of related to anything, kind of those basic American beliefs. Economic liberalization, all those good things. Political ideology is my personal beliefs about the government. And we develop that through political socialization. Political socialization, again, is how we develop our political ideology. The strongest factor in that is our family. Other things that influence us are life experience, the media, friends, even your ethnicity, your religion. All of those things can help define how you lean politically. Additionally, political efficacy is the feeling of how important your vote is. Does my impact matter? And people who have a higher sense of political efficacy are more likely to vote. All right, polls. Polls are indicators of all kinds of things. We take polls to see how people feel about the president, to see who's winning the president, to see who is, how we feel about any issue. Polls, how do we know that a poll is scientific and valid? There's kind of four ways. Three of them relate to sample. So it needs to be a random sample, it needs to be representative, and it needs to be large. And large, we're talking like 1,500, kind of is the minimum. 2,000 is a good number. When we're looking also at the fourth thing is wording. And wording needs to be unambiguous and needs to be non-biased. So we've got random sample, representative sample, large sample, and additionally we need to have good wording. The critics of polls say that candidates, congressmen, presidents can be too dependent upon polls and listen too much to polls and not actually listen to the people. All right, voting predictors. How do we know who's going to vote? How do we know how they're going to vote? Those are all things that we can determine. So we're thinking about who is most likely to vote. The older you are, the more educated you are, the more likely you are to vote. Additionally, there are other factors that indicate voters. If you have a very strong party loyalty, that is one of our greatest indicators of who is going to vote. The gender gap is the concept that women are slightly more likely to be liberal than men are. And so there are other things that indicate, for example, we're thinking about which religious group is the most liberal group. Jews are more liberal, so they're more likely to vote Democrat, so are minorities. So they're all things that can indicate how people are going to vote. Evangelical Protestants are more likely to be conservative. Catholics are more likely to be liberal. And so these are all things that indicators. So speaking of conservatives and liberals, kind of what are our views? So conservatives are more likely to be wanting to protect the Second Amendment or rights. They also are more likely to be pro-life. They want less government involvement. They would be against affirmative action. They would be in favor of returning prayer to school. They would like tax cuts. They would want to do things that would help to benefit business and small businesses. Liberals would be pro-choice. They would be more for public education. They also would be pro-choice. They would want gun restrictions. They were in favor of affirmative action. They believe that the government should help provide for social welfare of the people. Those are kind of some of our big issues. Government defense, so like our military defense, conservatives would want to increase that, and liberals would want to decrease. Voter turnout. So voter turnout for presidential elections is the highest, but still we're only talking like 50-60%. Primaries have one of the lowest voter turnout rates, and that's only about 20% that actually come for primaries. Again, that's that sense of party loyalty that they actually come out. As we have increased suffrage, so as we gave African Americans the right to vote, as we gave women the right to vote, as we gave 18-year-olds the right to vote, we still don't see an increase in the number of people voting. There's actually a decrease in the number of eligible percentage of eligible voters who are voting, even as we've increased suffrage. Okay, Electoral College. Electoral College is how we choose our president. There are a lot of arguments that the Electoral College is actually not very democratic because we're not actually voting directly for the president. We're voting for electors who will then vote for us. The problem of faithless electors has never affected election. 3 times a president won the Electoral College but did not win the popular vote. The most recent was in 2000 when Bush v. Gore was the case, went to Supreme Court, and Gore actually won the popular vote, but Bush won the Electoral College vote. So there are questions about what we could do to change it. Of course, it would take a constitutional amendment to change it. Remember that there are 538 members for the Electoral College. That is based on number of senators, 100, number of House of Representatives, 435, plus 3 for the District of Columbia. You need 270 votes to win. That's half of 538 plus 1 to win. In order to win, you must get a majority plurality to win. If you do not get 270, the vote is then decided by Congress. The House of Representatives votes on the president, and the vice president is voted on by the Senate. So yes, it is possible to have a president from 2 different parties. Linkage institutions, elections, the media, political parties, and interest groups are all examples of linkage institutions. They link us to the government, and they are important connections. So let's talk about the media. The media serves a couple of different roles. It serves the role as the gatekeeper, telling us what they think is important. So we may have a topic we want to hear about, but if the media doesn't think it's important, then it's not going to get covered. That is kind of that agenda setting, so gatekeeper or agenda setting. They also are the scorekeeper. They're telling us what is happening, who's winning in the polls, which candidate is more likely to become president at this point. And they're just keeping us along the whole time. Remember that the media has consistently focuses kind of on one person, on this horse race journalism, what sells and what's more interesting. The sound bites of the actual candidates has gotten smaller and smaller over time. They also serve as a watchdog, keeping us looking to see is the government doing anything wrong, anything they shouldn't be doing. Media plays a very important role. Additionally, think about how TV, social media, all these things have changed. When we think back to the Kennedy-Nixon debates, that was the first televised debate, and the people who listened to it thought that Nixon won, but the people who watched it thought that Kennedy had won. So the media is very, very powerful. Reagan, very famous for very much playing up to the media. Primaries versus caucus. So when we're thinking about linkage institutions as elections, how do I get elected? Getting elected for president, I'm going to have to go through primary or caucus so that I can get on the party ticket, so that I can be the candidate for the Republican Party, for the Democratic Party, or Libertarian or Green Party. Primary is actually voting, so that's what we do here in Virginia. Caucuses is what we see in several other states where, like Iowa, the big caucus, where they go to different sides of the room and discuss and debate, and it's only at a specific time. So if you leave early, your vote doesn't get counted. Primaries, you're actually voting, it's all day. We have open and closed primaries. Open primaries means you do not have to declare a party. So like in Virginia, we have open primary. I showed up on primary day, I said which party I wanted to vote for, and I got my ticket, and I went and voted. Closed primary, like you have in North Carolina, I have to declare my party before I can actually vote. Political parties are a major linkage institution. Political parties serve to get their candidates elected, and they also inform us about what their candidates believe. So political parties are very important in our country to tie us, this two-party system that we have here. Interest groups, on the other hand, are issue generalists and are more focused on getting their policy passed. They're not generalists the way that political parties are. Political parties are going to be issue generalists because they're trying to reach a large group of people. Remember that interest groups try to get their agendas passed 4 ways. We have lobbying, litigation, electioneering, and going public, or grassroots if you prefer. So in lobbying, they're trying to persuade legislators to pass their policy issues. With litigation, they are using court cases to help their issues get passed. For example, the NAACP is the one who brought Brown versus Board of Education. The ACLU is a big one bringing cases to the Supreme Court. Additionally, electioneering. Electioneering is how they're getting helping to get candidates elected, candidates who support their issues. That's where the fundraising comes in. That also kind of ties into the grassroots, but it's the fact that they're getting that idea out there. That grassroots is door to door, making sure people know about their issues. So with the electioneering, they can not only just be giving money in the form of PACs, they can also be interested in issue advocacy, issue networks doing independent expenditures where they're making advertisements and stuff to get their information out there. Campaign finance. Ooh, what a mess. This is the big one. So here's what you need to remember about campaign finance. Let's remember the difference between soft money and hard money. Soft money is unlimited spending and hard money is limited. So I have a limit on how much I can give to an individual candidate. So I can give Donald Trump, I can give Hillary Clinton, I can give them $2,500. If I want to give to a PAC, I'm limited. Super PACs, they fall under soft money. This is that unlimited amount of money. They cannot deal directly with candidates. Instead, they can do issue advocacy, and often super PACs run ads against the other candidate that would help support the person that they are wanting to support. So we think about what helped do that. So we go back, the establishment of the federal election commissions, which helps to kind of oversee all of this. They keep track of the donations. People have to turn that in so they know who's doing what. With the Buckley versus Vallejo case in the 1970s, this really challenged, can we put limits on money? Is money a form of First Amendment right? Is it a form of speech? And the Supreme Court said yes, it is. So individuals, that then opened the door for kind of these soft money contributions. Then we had the McCain-Feingold Act, also known as the BRCA Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, which then sought to limit soft money. So that's important to remember that. Also tried to limit ads and such, like where only 60 days before campaign for the November elections, they have to stop. So placing limits. Citizens United case versus the FEC in 2010, then again, is challenging this. As a business, as a corporation, do I have a First Amendment right? And the Supreme Court again said yes. So not only do individuals have this First Amendment right that money is free speech, but also businesses do as well. Hip Hughes does a great video on Citizens United. It would be great to follow up and watch that. Also, Citizen U has great series of videos on campaign finance and political parties and the media. Also would be a great idea to follow up watching any of those. And I will put the links in the bio down below this video. If you have any questions about the Electoral College, about proportional representation, winner take all, any of those systems, CP Gray, put a link for that below too. Also has some great videos for that as well. So that's pretty much the short, very fast, quick, all the things that we need to know for Unit 2 and 3, which covers political parties, political behaviors, political beliefs, and also the media, interest groups, all of our linkage institutions. Thanks for watching.